Hey, I went to the beach over the weekend. It was fantastic. I loved every minute of it. However, I am now very sore. So if you see, an ice pack or anything random in the video or I make some old man grunting noises, no, I didn't. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today is going to be a real treat. I had a lot of fun with this. So Jason gave me this dealer's choice donation deck list. Kind of. More of a brew challenge. And the challenge was play a deck with as many sideboard cards as you can. So the idea here is to play narrow things that you really shouldn't play in game one, but we're gonna do it anyway. And the legacy metagame is so exploitable right now, in that there's like two and a half decks in the format. And if you can find something that's very good against those, if you don't care about your win percentage versus literally any other decks, you might be able to build something that can bully some of these deck lists. So let's take a look at the madness that I have conjured for today. So Jason suggested playing like Leyline Helm in game one, and I thought Rest in Peace was going to be a better fit than Leyline Helm. In case you're not familiar with the combo, Rest in Peace keeps anything from going to graveyards, and Helm mills until you put certain things into your graveyard, meaning that for 4 and then 1 additional mana afterwards, you can just win the game. So our goal is to be the deck that is pre-sideboarded against Psychic Frog decks as well as Eldrazi. So we are playing Vexing Baubles in game 1 as a fair blue deck. Notice, we don't need Force of Wills. Force of Wills aren't good where we're going. Force of Wills aren't good against a pile of Cavern of Souls, right? So we are going to have Vexing Bauble for things like Grief, Force of Will, Daze within game 1 to protect our game-winning Haymakers. And your pesky threats that your opponents are playing are going to die to the 8 1-mana removal spells that we are going to be playing within this deck list. We are going to seek to shut down combat with the Rest in Peace Energy Field game plan, which works similarly to Helm. If we have Rest in Peace in play, Energy Field is going to prevent all damage that would be dealt to us by sources that we don't control, and the only way Energy Field goes away is if our opponent destroys it, or a card is put into our graveyard, which is not happening. We are going to play back to basics in multiples to shut down the Eldrazi mana base, as well as make it so that Underground Seas don't get to untap. And then we are going to have some other really annoying things, some uncounterable sweepers, some things that prevent creatures without flying from attacking, and I guess sometimes we have to win the game somehow. Enter Entreat the Angels. This is a card that's kind of power crept out of Legacy at this point, but I really wanted Moat in this deck list, and Moat doesn't really work with 4th Aerlingas. So we are going to go back to Old Reliable as our alternative win condition for this deck list. Now, if you take a look at the sideboard, there are some generic slots dedicated to the combo matchup, and then a lot of the rest of the stuff here is going to be fine-tuning. Stonecoil Serpent shouldn't be in this deck list, but Reach, Trample, Protection from Multicolored is a really neat combination of keywords. Like, Psychic Frog is just not getting through this ever, and I thought it was a neat addition to the deck list. Triumph of St. Catherine is a concession to the fact that in the Eldrazi matchup, I probably want to board out my Vexing Baubles, and that just is giving me a little bit of additional oomph in those matchups. A few more win conditions so I don't have to stall the game on forever. And Harbinger of the Seas is just one more FU to the Eldrazi mana base. So yeah, we have essentially pre-sideboarded for a very, very narrow subset of matches, and we are going to see how this blue-white sideboard deck goes. This is not like the fair and balanced and sane way to build a blue-white deck, but it is absolutely what we are doing today. A couple of quick notes on things that aren't here. To try to keep the mana base very, very solid, because like we are going hard on back to basics, I am not going to splash an additional color for something like red. Red for Pyroblasts would be totally fine and reasonable within this deck list. I don't think it's the direction that I am taking it with this specific build. And note that there is not a Mystic Sanctuary within this deck list, as we are trying to be this back to basics list that is also going to have a good number of basic planes that don't play well with it. So with that being said, let's get this madness on the road here, folks. Should you need some cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAmagic.com. Tales of Adventure has treated me well as a client. They will treat you well as a customer. You always get free shipping, and promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. You need some Entreat the Angels, some energy fields, you know where to go. I've been looking forward to this one for a couple of days. Let's battle. Okay, I don't think I like the single land opening hand here. We'll go ahead and mulligan this one, whereas this is beautiful. We'll keep this one. What's my worst card? Our opponent says hello. I, of course, will greet the Mayor of Pendrell Vale. Great place. I think I'm going to put back the Teferi and keep the Brainstorm. What if I get Chaliced? Oh, what if I get Chaliced? That would make me sad. I'm going to hedge against Chalice when I'm on the draw and don't have Force of Wills. Play a Tabby deck or we riot. The Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale and Maze of Ith were other things that I considered for this pre-sideboarded deck list, but they didn't fit the back to basics style plan that I came up with. So we have answers to construct tokens. And opponent is on a land-based strategy, it seems. Nice. We are rich in removal. I am going to go ahead and just play this bauble out now. No end of turn crop rotation or anything here. Wasteland. Ooh. You have no power here. I am going to play a land and pass. I am expecting my opponent to make stuff with Urza Saga construct tokens and then potentially just equip said token. I'm gonna just pick up another basic right now. I want to be able to remove a creature and potentially a second one. I've got this Teferi, which I am planning on using. Ooh. So Teferi can bounce artifacts, creatures, or enchantments, just FYI. So let's path that little guy right there. There is a basic. Would I like to swords? Nah, I think I'm just going to Teferi this one and take the hit. I think it's also probably okay to cycle Vexing Bauble here. Ooh, nice. Also nice. We're not quite there mana-wise, but any land gets us there. So, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Half of our combo. So, the whole goal here is to offer up Teferi to the gods of Urza Saga so that I don't actually take any damage from this Urza Saga, and then I will untap with a bunch of Swords to Plowshares to take out the next two Urza Saga tokens. If I can Supreme Verdict, that would also be pretty cool. Yep. All according to, what is it, Kaikaku? Alright, goodbye, Teferi. Lorien revealed. Sure. Am I good with taking a decent-sized hit from one of these? Potentially. I think so. I think this is an okay turn to Brainstorm. We're not ready for Energy Field. We're not ready for Entreat. I will just put both of those back. Make my land drop. Go ahead and fetch now. Never using triple white at the same time, so I'll get second blue. Call that good. Again, we are just fully playing around Wasteland. Make your token. I also don't think I care about my opponent's life total all that much. Crop rotation is occurring. That's kind of annoying. That's just going to be another Urza Saga. Yeah. I'm just going to let my opponent search. I'll give them the extra life. It is a map, which represents yet another thing. Opponent did not equip here. I'm willing to take 6. I think I'm willing to take 6. Just clean both up with Supreme Verdict at the same time. Hold up Swords to Plowshares forever. That feels acceptable. Ooh, actually, I need 3rd white for that. That's a little awkward. Good Tundra. Do I have to Tundra? Yeah, I kind of have to Tundra. I messed up. This did need to be 3rd white. I guess I didn't always know that I was going to be locked into this line. Sure. So, using this white, take out the Urza Saga worth of value, and then we are holding up swords. I don't think we are too worried at this time. It's when my opponent can produce 2 creatures in the same turn cycle that things get a little more dicey. Oh, it's something big. Sowing Myco Spawn. Sure. My opponent could get an Ancient Tomb to be able to activate Urza Saga. That's kind of hot. I like that. But my opponent does not get an attack step effectively this turn. Oh, they're going to give up the Urza Saga value. Swords. I mean, I am happy with my opponent not maximizing value, although they do get to search with Expedition Map to get the 4th Urza Saga, which they are going to do. And they are playing that last Urza Saga. So my Tundra did not get wastelanded. That's nice. I could cast a Lorien Revealed. Doing so is incredibly awkward if I miss. I think this is just a brainstorm moment. This is pretty incredible for something like a Back to Basics. I think I'll tap the Tundra to do this. Negative. I'm going to put back Lorien Revealed and I guess a Swords. I'm going to fetch to clear. Yeah. 3rd white here. I think 3rd white. Yeah. Hey. Put back 1 and 2. Game 1, Back to Basics. Muy delicioso. That's why we fished for that card. Now this Urza Saga can be activated for 1 token. I have 2 removal spells in hand. This is going fine. Shadow Spear is fine. My opponent's deck probably has at least 1 copy of Boseiju. So like, that's a thing. No, you can have the life. I don't think I want to give my opponent a basic immediately. They might have a second one, they might not. So, play Vexing Bauble, cycle Vexing Bauble, drop fetch land, pass. Now this is the part where we want to look for something like a Rest in Peace to exile these Urza Sagas permanently, because all 4 of them are about to be in the graveyard. Soul Guide Lantern. Yeah, my stuff's not coming back, but that is the sort of thing that my opponent should be doing here. My opponent has 5 cards in hand. Some number of the cards in hand might be low impact cards. Think about the Swords to Plowshares style cards that could be in flex slots of a deck like this one. That's another big play. It is a Sowing Myco Spawn, getting a Thespian Stage. Sure. So I'm not going to fire off this Path to Exile yet, I don't think. Yeah, no, this is fine. Pass turn. I can let my opponent spend some mana on equipping it and then remove it. A Crop Rotation. Sure. There's Dark Depths. Sure. So my opponent is going to get their 20/20. They're going to attempt to equip with Lava Spur Boots. And we are going to stop that. I'm going to try to stop that with Path to Exile. Like so. No second basic land. Now I decide whether or not I want to clear out Sowing Myco Spawn. I think I do. I think that is a fine exchange of resources. We have officially gotten the lol in chat. Yeah, no, we're all sorts of warped, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to hold that for a brainstorm. Maybe I should have left Vexing Bauble in play at some point. Stopping the additional Mox Diamonds would have been okay. Sure. That probably has minimal impact unless my opponent finds a Life from the Loam, in which case it is fucking horrifying. Fuck. Yeah. So my opponent next turn can start working on just like Dark Depths plus stage copy. each turn cycle. So this is bad. Let's find our way out of this, shall we? Rest in Peace is literally one turn too late. Ponder looks at 2 cards. I do have a bit of a mana bottleneck. Let's take Ponder with the intention of shuffling immediately. Let's just fetch and ponder. Look at the most fresh cards that way with no variance. Yeah. Moat. Alright, Lage flies. Energy Field is not going to keep me alive. I have a Tundra that is wastelandable, so I need to shuffle this. Okay. I mean, that keeps me alive. Maybe. It ain't great. I haven't counted mana yet, but my opponent might be able to just make Urza's Saga token and Dark Depths in the same turn, try to give haste to both. I think I'm just going to be a little bit too slow here. I just never hit a source of... No, I'm saying that wrong. I never hit one of the combo pieces early in the game so that I could just do things with the other one. I just pay the ward cost here and let just this attack. So, Path you. Pay the 1. Yeah, I needed to rip a little bit earlier. That's a little late. Am I dead on board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am dead on board with haste. Activate, equip, +1 additional damage. I'm not going to show my opponent the Rest in Peace. Unfortunate, we came up just short there. And they're certainly a fetchable land in my opponent's deck. They haven't, like, Urza Saga'd much. Okay, what am I doing? Honestly, the Game 1 deck is probably pretty solid against what they are doing, and it just didn't quite line up correctly. I would like Harbinger of the Seas a lot. I don't mind Teferi Time Reveler. Consign to Memory is probably not exactly great. It can do some things sometimes. It's probably a little narrow. I think I'm going to take Vexing Bauble out. Like, it does some things against one specific card. I don't know that I'm super excited about that. That gives me another answer to lands, an answer to creatures. Prismatic Ending answers a bunch of stuff that hits my opponent's board, and maybe I play like one more win condition even though it's not perfect. I could also play like one Force of Negation, or Life from the Loam in particular. I think that would be okay too. Let's just play one win condition. Yeah, that's fine. We have 3 lands. That means we have turn 3 back to basics. I have an answer for a creature, and I don't think we are in any particular hurry here. Island Ponder. Fuck yeah. I could set up turn 3 Triumph of St. Catherine. I think I am going to do that. I might not cast it, but I think I am going to set that up. I think we are good with this. And I might just shuffle the Triumph back into the deck. Yavimaya into Exploration. You've got it. See if my opponent kind of gets ahead of back to basics a little bit. They do. I am probably interested in still casting my back to basics next turn as quickly as possible. I think I will just go ahead and play Prismatic Vista. Intend on fetching away the creature that's on top of my library. Talon Gates of Madara, which can phase out creatures. This is kind of a neat utility tool against crop rotation style things. I could Brainstorm this turn with my mana. I think I am okay turning Brainstorm into another card. I think that's fine with me. I am not going to reveal. I'm going to put back a Triumph, and I'm just going to keep the second back to basics. I think that card is very good, and I think there's a decent chance my opponent tries to destroy it. I'm just going to put back the Teferi for being mana inefficient right now. Then we'll fetch out a basic Plains and attempt to slam my good card. Yeah. It is in play at the very least. Could get Boseju'd, could get Force of Vigored. There's stuff that can happen. But we have a second one for a reason. There is the Force of Vigor getting a crop rotation. That's fine. That's a 2-for-1 trade in my favor. I am going to take a little bit of damage over the course of the next 2 turns. I think as long as my opponent doesn't immediately follow up with another Urza Saga this turn, I think I am totally fine. There's the boots. That was expected. So we take a good hit here. 4-7. Then hopefully we've got it on a lock from here. Yeah. Pass turn. So now we can Swords a Construct token, and then make it so that we take 3 damage instead of 4. And then hopefully we start drawing cantrips and other things that give us a source of card advantage. This is where we want to draw the Lorien Revealed, Rest in Peace Energy Field, that sort of stuff. So let's Swords this little fella, paying the 1. And now we just rely on the top of the deck to do top of the deck things. And Lava Spur Boots mean that my Supreme Verdict isn't exactly perfect. Hopefully that doesn't matter too much. Seeing a tapping and untapping of Maze of Ith. There aren't too many things that a single green mana can cast. Exploration, Expedition Map, Crop Rotation come to mind. Reclaimer, sure. I will probably just Sorcery Speed answer that. Yeah, we can punt this 1 turn down the line, I think, given my opponent's mana bottlenecking here. Let's just Teferi bounce. There's a Rest in Peace. I'm good with dropping that into play this turn and dropping Path to Exile. I think that's fine. I don't actually care if the Teferi dies. Okay, my opponent is not... Ooh. Yes. It's a miracle. Cast. Plus. Call it a turn. So now the... Okay, a couple of things. So number 1, my opponent did not keep the Boseiju to answer back to basics. So they must have some other plan that they're working towards. They're not putting that Elvish Reclaimer into play immediately. Plus here. Go to Punchies. 21. And this does have lifelink. Notably, if my opponent kills it, I don't do the thing. Ah, that is the plan. Sure. That is occurring. I will take another Plains. So Teferi stops your opponent from casting spells only as sorceries, but that's not what's happening here exactly. Now my opponent's Maze of Ith can also untap and do things to Triumph, so the Triumph attacks are not super reasonable anymore. Sowing Mycospawn. Potentially finding another Urza Saga. And multiple of those things happening at the same time would legitimately be annoying for me. It is a Thespian's Stage. Sure. And a Reclaimer. And it seems like that's it. That's the turn cycle. I can bounce this Urza Saga out of play, but my opponent can still just, like, copy it. That's not gonna super work out the way that I want it to. I can attack my opponent for 5, Supreme Verdict away the creatures, Teferi Bounce and Urza Saga. I guess I could start with Teferi Bounce Urza Saga, force the issue on this if my opponent wants to do that. I'm into it. My opponent's long-term plan is probably generating a Thespian Stage that turns into a basic land. Ooh, shit, it just resolved. Was not expecting that. Cool. Then now let's brainstorm. Those aren't what I'm looking for, and I have no way to shuffle, so I'm just drawing through all of it. Rough, but understood. I'll send in for my 5 life. Mostly with the intention of trying to Supreme Verdict away those bodies, I think. I'm into eliminating Lava Spur Boots from the equation. The haste is a long-term problem for me. And this is not exactly perfect here, but the rip stopping the Triumph of St. Catherine shuffle is really rough. This has been a really cool game. I think it is, again, slipping away from me. I just haven't drawn any of the combo pieces side by side. Will my opponent name Helm of Obedience? Will they name Teferi? They will name Teferi. Yeah, my next 2 draws just aren't great. Ooh, sure. I have Path to mess with the Dark Depths, so that's nice. But I'm absolutely on the back foot here. Yep. Hello, 2020. I'll just do it now while my opponent's tapped out. The 1 green mana is probably not a deal breaker in their turn when they have 1 card in hand. And we'll call it a turn. I have Path plus Path for the 2 Urza Saga Construct tokens. Top card of my deck is a Tundra right now, I think. This has got to go. I think I've taken a hit from this. I think now I have 1 Urza Saga token covered instead of 2. I'm just not going to beat Pile O Urza's Sagas. This can also represent an expedition map in a way that's not great for me. This is where I need to top deck a cantrip and find Energy Field or Helm. Like that's the plan, TM. I don't think I need more than just the 8 initial cantrips in this deck, but I could be wrong. It feels like I want to be drawing more cantrips than I am. Fuck. Yeah, it is like Energy Field time. Oh, sure. I will save some life here, path 1 of those, take 3, go to 7. I will potentially just die if I miss on this draw, depending on kind of what my opponent does with Expedition Map here. I think the line is Expedition Map for 2nd Urza's Saga, play Urza's Saga, and then be able to generate multiple constructs in the same turn cycle. Not dead yet, but my opponent answered 2 back to basics, 3 back to basics. How many was it? They're playing well. 2 back to basics. Let's preserve some life. I'm going to go for this. This costs me 1 life this turn, but saves me more potential life the following turn. Unsure if that's correct or not. Or, okay, this is what we're looking for. Ponder. Moat? Well, it's attached to some bad draws, but I think we'll take the Moat here. All right. Moat. We have gotten the full-on what in chat. Hopefully just like a Haywire Might doesn't come off of Urza's Saga and ruin my shit. We are a hair away from death. And hopefully we're stable for a little while. Is our Dark Depths gone already? There's a Dark Depths and a Stage gone. I'm not sure what exactly my opponent's deck configuration is going to look like, but there might not be all that many copies of these things. Yeah, so here we see a Thespian Stage becoming a copy of an Urza Saga before our opponent loses both of them. And I have a Path to Exile on top of my deck for a potential... Ooh, that was another Thespian Stage gone. Or another potential Merit Lage. So we are in draw go mode, where I die as soon as this Moat leaves play. So there's a Boseiju in exile, I believe. There's a Boseiju in play. So we are safe adjacent. There's probably still Force of Vigors around, which will be very good if they do happen. In case we rip an Entreat, I'm going to play an extra land here. My opponent is lower on clock than I am. I think this game will reach a proper conclusion rather than one of us timing out. That is my suspicion. Because, like, I die if my opponent answers Moat. My opponent dies if I draw, like, an Entreat or a Helm. And a cantrip gets me to one of those a decent portion of the time as well. Yeah, alright, so we've got that covered. That's fine. My opponent has used the Talon Gates already. Again, we will keep playing the basic lands for if we hit Entreat. Alright, Thespian Stage becomes Dark Depths. Dark Depths thing happens. Path to Exile on Merit Lage. Successful. Nice. So every draw step is scary, but... Uh-oh. No, don't do it! Don't do it! I have a family! Don't you dare tap 4 lands! Fuck! That was a fantastic game. I will give the opponent the GG. They earned that one. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Alright, I think I am not a fan of this one. It is just far too clunky. Yeah, this is fine. I'm gonna get rid of the expensive Supreme Verdict from this hand and hope that I can just kind of cantrip my way through initial turns. I probably end up getting a Tundra in some capacity with this hand. Would love to just kind of naturally draw a white land so that the Ponders and Brainstorms don't have to select for lands. Alright. I think, going to go ahead and cantrip and ponder looking for a basic. Specifically a white basic. I can just Lorien Revealed to hit my next land drop and continue this game. Fantastic. I don't know how I feel about Path yet. I think against Underground Sea, on average, I probably want Path. I think I am leaving... Alright, I can't undo past that. I think I am leaving Path on top was going to be the end of that statement. But I can just leave Flooded Strand on top to accomplish the same goal while having the option to shuffle it away. See if we're looking at Surveil Land or Entomb or Troll here. Surveil Land. Getting rid of a Bauble. So we are potentially playing against a Grixis Delver decklist. Been a lot of that running around. We are kind of in a 2 to 3 color tempo format right now outside of the Eldrazi deck. If I play Rip now, Rip potentially just eats days. I kind of just want to pass the turn. Sometimes this lets a Murktide Regent sneak into play, but I should not have real problems with that. Tamiyo is fine. So there's currently a land on top of my deck. I think I'm just going to remove this creature now. A little awkward because removing something like Psychic Frog can matter more. My opponent gets their Brainstorm in response, which is going to flip Tamiyo. That's a little annoying. It's less annoying if I just rest in peace my opponent, but I'm not great at attacking Planeswalkers. I think I'm going to go ahead and just use this and convert this into a different card, give my opponent a chance to daze if they would like. The Lorien Revealed is a little clunky right now. I think I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. Yeah. Let's make land drop. Drop Rest in Peace around days. It resolves. I think I will go ahead and fetch and ponder now. I would love to find a Vexing Bauble to play next turn. Ooh, those are some fucking cards right there. Yeah, I like those. We're going to keep all those. And pass turn. So the Tamiyo's abilities other than the -7 are not super relevant to this game. Assuming that I can end up resolving a Helm and winning the game instantly. Ponders are fine. Okay, and it looks like my opponent does not have more mana here. They chose not to use that ability. So, the goal is next turn play a Helm around days, and then repeat that the following turn. Fantastic. We have some relatively oppressive enchantments in play. We don't mind this ability here. So, let us attempt Helm of Obedience. Fantastic. We'll pass to our opponent's turn and then activate this during their upkeep. Attempt to win. Target. Game. The Stifle effect can keep my opponent alive for a turn. Yep. But then I will just activate again on their turn. So they would need an untap effect and another Stifle to continue from here, which they do not have. Anything interesting go to exile here? Not really. Nethergoyf did. Okay, so we are probably looking at a blue-black tempo decklist. Could still be Grixis, but potentially just the blue-black tempo decklist. All right. So, Teferi's fine. Stonecoil's fine. Prismatic Ending's fine. This is fine. Triumph is fine. I have 6 cards that I can be thinking about. Some of my opponent's stuff, like Nethergoyf, don't fly, and Moat is effective against them. I just have to kind of think about, like, what am I cutting here? It could be Vexing Bauble. Not that Vexing Bauble is bad. It might not be as good as some of this other stuff. My opponent probably has about 2 answers to each one of these Haymaker enchantments, other than counterspells. So, like, keeping the Vexing Baubles kind of makes sense. But then what am I cutting? I think it's Vexing Baubles, at least for the game that I am on the draw here. So let's get removal spell, annoying blocker, additional back to basics into play. And that change might be greedy. Let's try that, see how crazy it feels. And seems good. Keep Reno. A removal spell for an early Nethergoyf, Psychic Frog, Tameo. And we just kind of go from there. If my opponent shows me a whole bunch of basics this game, like more than just 2, I probably board out back to basics for the next game. And for the game that I am on the play, I keep the Vexing Baubles. So take your card. So that I don't get stifled, I am just going to pick up a basic island right now. And I'll hold up a Brainstorm. If it ends up being safe for me to cast this Brainstorm, I will cast it and I'll put the Triumph a couple down. If my opponent just passes the turn with with Orc mana available, though, I'm not going to do that. Yep. There we go. This is fine. Sure. There is an Orcish Bowmasters. I think I'm just going to fire off my Brainstorm in response and not necessarily intend on pathing immediately. Ooh. Yeah, let's hide Triumph 2 down and then maybe hide Teferi on top. And that seems fine. And I might end up attempting a Path to Exile on my opponent's turn. I'll take 2 from the Bowmasters in combat, though. I don't have to do that immediately. Take 2. Frog. So now I get a couple shots at answering Frog safely. So this is removal spell number 1 that probably eats a Daze or Force of Will. Yep, that's fine. I think for removal spell, for my removal spell 2, do I just bounce it out of play? That's not great with Bowmasters here. Let's just try to Prismatic Ending it. It's not Dazeable right now. Yeah, it seems fine. So yeah. So that's the Psychic Frog backed by 2 counterspells. That's a little scary. If my opponent dumps a bunch of cards into it, I can Teferi it out of play at the cost of the Teferi, because the Teferi would get pinged by Bowmasters. Okay. Yeah, opponent's going in. We'll see for how much. 1 additional, so I'll take 4. Sure. So they get to draw their card. Ooh. Sure. I think we are doing this. Yeah. So I have a 5/5 lifelinker in play. That helps. Am I casting Ponder into this spell? Yeah, I think so. I think things are scary enough that I think that's fine. Yeah. Nah. This is not ideal. So the Psychic Frogs can fly if my opponent can keep using their graveyard as a resource. So I would love to hit a Rest in Peace here. Sure. Back to basics could have been a Vexing Bauble this game, which would have been better here. All right. So one of them flies. The other flies. So just those are coming in. So I'm taking a hit for 3-ish damage. I'm at 7, which is closer to 12 life than not. Another back to basics, not what I want. Let's start with an attack and see where that goes. Let's see if we can get this life. Petty Theft, that's real good. Sure. Is Teferi on a frog even good? Opponent goes up to 4 cards in hand. The frog alone is 6. That's not even good. So, I think we have to do something a little sketchier here. We are going to cast an energy field. A Nakey energy field. Okay, opponent forces. Please don't let the final card be a Daze. It's not. So I have an energy field in play, so I am not taking damage from my opponent's sources anymore. However, when something of mine is countered, when I discard a card, when my opponent forces me to discard a card, we're in trouble. I will die to another Brazen Borrower. My opponent's deck probably has 2. Sure. No damage, no triggers. Cool. So, I am safe adjacent. Last turn, my opponent did not have a counterspell. Do I risk it for the Moat? The Moat helps a lot. It means that only the Brazen Borrower and potentially Psychic Frogs can hit me. Opens me up to days being good. This is damage dealt to you, not planeswalkers. I think I'm going to fire this off before hardcast Force of Will mana is a thing. Sometimes this kills me, though. Moat's in play. We're doing it. Blue-white prison masquerading as control is a go. Oh no, they put a card on top. I must be dead. I guess I would keep a cantrip on top as well, right? Like, that's fine. Okay, yeah, that is what it is. So my opponent's got 38 cards, probably looking for a Brazen Borrower, but I would be keeping Force of Wills here as well. A Force of Will on a spell that I play is game winning. So now every one of my turn becomes like risk versus reward. If my opponent has a Force of Will, I probably lose to it eventually anyway, when I go for something like a Rest in Peace. Don't want to put Teferi in play. Teferi can be attacked by Brazen Borrower and Frogs. I think I am okay with Pondering. It doesn't seem like my opponent has anything. That means that I will just... Oh, what do I do? Why am I fucking Pondering? Oh my god. I got lost in the sauce. I don't have Rest in Peace. So this is about to go to my graveyard. I have messed up. Fuck. I was specifically avoiding this. And then I just punted. That's on me. That gets sacrificed. These can attack now. Which means I have messed up. I can Teferi into removal spell my way out of this or something. This is bad. I just messed that up terribly. Let's return a bigger Psychic Frog to hand. And then try to find a removal spell. This is going to get pinged. Yeah, I just messed up. Yeah, so my primary concern that I was thinking about in my head was I need to not discard to hand size, because when I discard to hand size, I lose my stuff. So this is just lethal if my opponent goes all in for it. 1, 2, 3. That's 7. That is lethal. Let's look at the top couple of cards here, just for giggles. Oh my gosh. We were very, very far away from doing anything relevant. I still probably lose that one if my Rest in Peace is that far down. That's a lot of time for my opponent, but I played that one poorly. So now that I know that my opponent is just going to fetch out basics super aggressively, Vexing Bauble becomes much better. Harbinger of the Seas becomes worse. Let's just get better versus counter spells here. And make it so that my enchantments are more likely to stick. Looks like my opponent is mulliganing pretty deeply here, which likely does not bode well for them. I'm going to go ahead and fetch and lead this one on Vexing Bauble. This is going to shut off Mishra's Baubles, Dazes, Force of Wills for the foreseeable future. Ooh, wow. So my opponent went to 5 and now is Force of Willing to stop Vexing Bauble. Opponent has Consigned to Memory in. And we'll see if they have like an early Nethergoyf or something. No, I will not reveal Entreat the Angels. I'm just going to pass the turn here, I think. We'll brainstorm in response to an opposing fetch here. I don't want to eat a stifle effect on my stuff. Entreat and Triumph are going back into the deck. I am not ready for those yet. I'll pick up white for Moat here. And we've got a Surveil land. And they like their card. If they play something, I am likely to just Teferi bounce it out of play. Bowmasters would be one of the more annoying things here. Frog is also annoying. For curve-based reasons, I would love to play Teferi here. It's just pretty bad if I get dazed. I might just Stonecoil Serpent for X equals 2. My opponent's Fatal Push type stuff is likely to be sideboarded out. Like Fatal Push doesn't hit the angel that I showed them. Ponder. Sure. Yeah, I think I am into X equals 2 Stonecoil Serpent here. And then I will ponder looking for more removal or more lands. Yes. I think we're going Call it a turn. We are walling the frog. My opponent can dig for their answers to this, or just try to find a monocolored threat like a Nethergoyf or a Bowmasters or whatever. I'm probably never attacking with this Stonecoil Serpent. It's just very awkward to attack with that in an Orcish Bowmasters world for the X value that I have currently played it for. Concede to Stonecoil Serpent. It's fine. So, next goal. Protect future spells from interaction. I would like this to be blue. I think I'm going to accordingly play this here. A little weird. Because, like, there's dazes and stifle effects to think about. I think I'm going to fetch ahead of time so that I can leave planes untapped afterwards while getting second blue. So, attempt to fairy. Force of negation. Loading a mana. Pitching to fairy. Sure. This doesn't get dazed if I wait a turn and play Vexing Bauble first. I'm gonna just wait on this Swords to Plowshares. Just seems like crazy. I thought Vexing Bauble was down there. It must be one deeper. That's on me. We good with this? I just don't think I'm using my mana right now. I think I am waiting for that Vexing Bauble, in which case I maybe should have not played Tundra this turn. It's just exposing it to a Wasteland and making a daze better. I don't like how I've played the last turn cycle or two. Hopefully that doesn't matter, though. Oh. Yeah. Got a Stifle over there you want to use? So yeah. Maybe I leave basic planes up. 2 of these is pretty good. We're in play. I think I'll pass the turn. I'll continue to play patiently. End up removing Psychic Frog or whatever and then playing scarier cards. I think I'm going to continue to just, like, not make cards dazable. Draw step stop here. Or something. Bowmasters is a thing. I think I'm just into attacking. Like, my opponent can make the first move with their Psychic Frog if they want, and then I can throw Swords to Plowshares at it. Okay, there's a daze that we've actively played around. There's a Wasteland. There's another Wasteland. This is still before blocks. So now that my opponent has committed to this Psychic Frog, yeah, disgusting. Stonecoil Serpent being a boss. If I keep this hand, there's some portion of the time where I just don't play Magic because I don't get additional lands. I have a couple of Brainstorms. I think this is a defensible keep, but I think I don't need to keep something that looks like that on a 7. This is fine. We'll keep this. I'm not the most excited about the Tundra, but I don't think I need to keep 4 drops in my opening hand. That seems like a bit much. All right, Devourer of Destiny. We've got a Moat here, which is real good. We've got a Supreme Verdict here, which is real good. The Helm doesn't do a lot. We don't have any of our 8 removal spells. We don't have a Back to Basics. What is going to exile here? Okay. Red Splash version. Got it. Cool. No immediate turn 1 threat, which is great. That gives me some time to get established. And since we are playing all basics, Sowing Mycospawn does not mess with us very much, which is cool. I have a Path to Exile for if we need to deal with something like an Eldrazi Linebreaker or a Glaring Fleshraker. And again, we're not playing Force of Wills in the main deck to hedge around this sort of stuff. That was white mana, so this is probably just a Glaring Fleshraker. And then at end of turn, I will path that thing. We need to bide time until we can put these powerful enchantments into play. I do have to keep in mind that my opponent does have outs to these enchantments, so it's not just game over in the way that it used to be. That's an okay draw. That gives me something to do with my mana next turn. Now we have accelerated my opponent out. There's some worlds where they hit another soul land and they can Sowing Mycospawn kicked. And that would punish us pretty hard. Yeah. Cool, they went for our blue source rather than our white source. I think the blue source is more valuable to me personally. Eye of Ugin's a little rough here if that's what my opponent is getting. Don't have a Back to Basics yet or the mana to cast it. Helm is not good. I am in immediate danger of dying. Not literally. Like, I am not going to be reduced to 0 life. But I think I am now in the position where if my opponent has a very good turn, I might not come back from it. That's not great. Is this the point where I concede? Like, is this the point where I'm not coming back from this? So I am at 17. I'm taking 3 more after this, which is 14. There's then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage on board, and my opponent can answer a moat. Do I want to show my opponent this nonsense? Oh, well, apparently I was still F6'd even though I turned off all auto yields. Alright, well, I guess I did show my opponent. Sure. So I missed a land drop. This is not shuffling. Like in Swords, a Thought Knot or Glaring Fleshraker take 5-ish damage. Still not hit land drops. I think this is the point where I'm fine just conceding. We want to board in 4-ish cards. I want to get rid of Vexing Baubles. This can become a Consign, a Harbinger of the Seas, and probably 2 Triumph of St. Catherine's just to have some additional win conditions. Another Teferi is also not crazy. I might do that over Narset. I would say that this hand is not perfect. I think this hand is probably good enough. I get to Brainstorm at end of turn to just convert Brainstorm into a different card physically. Alice? Alice. That's fine. I will not reveal that. Yeah, so I will put a Triumph 2 down. That seems fine. Like, I am I am good always drawing that card next turn, even if I don't necessarily play it immediately. Like, if my opponent is not that far ahead on board, I just slam back to basics. Oh, I forgot to play my Rest in Peace. That's on me. I was talking about other things. Sure. Now I probably just put the giant creature into play. Although I could just back to basics and then Supreme Verdict the following turn, depending on how bad exactly this turn gets. I'm definitely taking some from the Fleshraker. The real question is, like, does this stuff get cashed in to get more of these things into play? No. The back to basics isn't even that good right now. I think I'm just going to put my creature into play. The Wool Miracle. We got our 2-mana 5/5 lifelinker. And it's actually a positive that I don't Rest in Peace, because if this dies, I just get it back. Opponent's unlikely to have Dismember in against me. Opponent's Eye of Ugin specifically here alongside this lines up pretty well versus my back to basics. My opponent plays the 7-mana Duder. It's just another thing to get swept up in Supreme Verdict, which I'm good with. Okay, cool. So let's fetch. This can be another blue, I guess. Just to do the deck thinning here. Now, am I going to Supreme Verdict? Maybe. This is a lot of stuff to clear. I am slightly worried about just dying to a Kozilek's command. Let's try to get the Glaring Fleshraker out of play. Now, my opponent should block and sacrifice, and I should not actually gain life here. We take those. So, yeah. And so this is 1, 2, 3 creatures plus some change. So Triumph will go back on top of my deck somewhere. And then we see how scary this turn is. Not is the answer. This is not a long-term problem because I do just have back to basics. So yeah. There's back to basics. And despite some potential awkwardness, I'm going to go ahead and drop Rest in Peace now as well. Then if my opponent top decks a Thought Knots here, they take nothing from my hand. This does potentially make my Triumph worse if it dies another time. I don't feel like that matters that much. It is a Fleshraker. Now I gain some bonus life, so I am not immediately scared of this, especially with my opponent's low hand size. Yes. X equals 3. And there is still a Triumph on top of my deck somewhere as well. I would love to Brainstorm away my Tundra at some point. My opponent is dead in the air. They could do something like a Kozilek's command to relatively large effect this turn. But a large Kozilek's command is not the best in that it sets my opponent up for back to basics. Is there a Spirit Guide? Oh, another Lotus Petal, I see. So, Line breaker gets big. All right, math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I could eat 7 direct damage to face. 7 plus 7 is 14. Yeah. No, if my opponent has a Kozilek's Command, they cast it pre-combat because this just gets bigger. I'll just take the 7 and then try to kill them in the air. Yeah. Well, one of us is dead. It's you. Cool. I could play a Prismatic Ending to have a couple more answers to Chalice. My most important cards don't get countered by Chalice, but my 8 removal spells sure do. That kind of hedges against Chalice in 2 directions by boarding out 1 drop and boarding in 1 additional answer to it. Chalice is very good against me if I keep this hand. Otherwise, I think this hand is solid despite missing a color. But I fold to turn 1 Ancient Tomb Chalice. I think I am just going to accept that. That's not Ancient Tomb Chalice. So now I get to consign to memory the first creature that my opponent plays most of the time, or a Chalice that happens on turn 2. This feels pretty good. I would love to get 4 mana out of this by taking something like a Thought-Knot Seer. That's good enough. Get out. Fuck. Sure. Hopefully I now just brainstorm into a removal spell and this is a non-issue. Here we go. That's not quite what I need. We'll put back 1 back to basics and a brainstorm. I will Island Cycle, Lorien Revealed for Tundra, and then I get to remove this stuff. And it's just a question of how crazy is my opponent's turn. If their turn isn't crazy, I feel very, very favored to win. Sure. I respond to that by picking up my Tundra, and then we'll see how bad the rest of the turn is. I imagine that I'm just losing a Swords here. I don't think the back to basics is that threatening. When your opponent has like both Eye of Ugin and Glaring Fleshraker, it doesn't do a ton. Ooh, opponent disagrees. Sure. Ooh, is it a line breaker too? Oh, that's fucked. Oh, that's so bad. Because now that just adds... Wow. Getting clocked hard here. I take 10. Sure. Am I going to die because I opened on Island, and I can't double removal spell this turn? I am. Yeah, because I opened on Island, I'm dead. Unless my opponent plays poorly? I don't have any... No, I could hit Energy Field. I'm not dead. It's just really bad. 3 in 48 shot of being alive? Come on. Negative. This is turn 3, so I can't hit land plus other thing. I think that does it. Yeah, I am a touch too slow here. I am dead on board. Well, damn. GG's. We're going to auto-mulligan this one. I just don't have enough functional mana here. This second one is fine. We have Rip plus Energy Field plus 2 removal spells, or 1 removal spell plus Narset. I will put the expensive card back into my deck, I think. This is always a basic Plains. I am going to do a crazy person thing and just kind of fetch around a Stifle here, because I just always know that I want blue and white. And there has been a surprising amount of, consigned to memory around. I am good with shutting off counterspells here. All right. Counterspells are off. Another island, Merchant Scroll. We are playing against High Tide. In bad news, my deck is not meant to fight something like this. So my whole Rest in Peace Energy Field lock ain't doing shit. My removal spells also aren't doing things. My biggest boon here is that my opponent does not know how bad my deck is. That's what we've got going for us right now. So in case you aren't familiar with High Tide, because it's not something that pops up a lot in Legacy, my opponent's overall strategy is going to be make their islands tap for more mana, and then use all of that mana to untap the lands to make more mana, and eventually draw a bunch of cards and win the game. And we just are not built for this sort of thing. This is a very inbred deck that is looking to attack certain strategies. And my rest in peace style stuff is not super meaningful here. We shall have a swift death, though. I can choose to play the rest in peace out on my turn, and it, like, technically matters a little bit. Opponent has untapped their lands, but they didn't float an extra mana with the island, so they missed out on a little bit. I don't think it's going to matter, because I just don't have agency. There's the time spiral. So I get new cards, which is great for me, but I don't have those game 1 Force of Wills. And this is an illustration of, like, why you don't build decks like this, because, like, they will have glaring weaknesses. This is the sort of thing that I would love to do if I get a turn. This is a very impactful card. High Tide is a non-deterministic combo, so at some point my opponent could fizzle and fail, but it won't be because I disrupted them. There is a Hardcast Lorien revealed, a Brain Surge, Brainstorm's older cousin, and now I imagine we are doing something that resembles winning the game. There's a Force of Will, which I guess my opponent can pay for at this stage. They have that much mana. Sure. 31 mana, casually, as one does. Mind's Desire with 13 copies. Why can't I always yield to these? Okay, at this point, there's another Merchant Scroll there. There's a Mind's Desire there. I think at this point, it is pretty clear that my opponent is going to have the ability to win the game, and I'm going to value my own time and concede here. So, counter spells in. Counter spells in. This can counter a Storm Trigger. This is real good. 9-ish cards that I can reasonably play. So, my energy fields are fully dead. My back to basics are blue cards. We'll keep those. My moats are fully dead. My supreme verdicts are fully dead. My swords to plowshares and paths are pretty dead. I might have to keep paths. So yeah. I might be able to cut paths. We might be playing some sketchy cards, but I might be able to physically cut them. So yeah. Harbinger of the Seas is probably better than back to basics. I will keep one more back to basics just as a blue card. I intend on pitching to these spells. No. That does not have a plan. This has a plan. Oh boy, this hand's bad. Okay. Alright. Let's believe, shall we? Let us believe in basic planes. In basic planes, we trust. Goal is multiple uncounterable deafening silences, and then we win eventually somehow later. Never didn't have it. So, deafening silence. Now this is symmetrical, so I can't just immediately follow up with another deafening silence. Well, we take those. Fair. I mean, this is the upside of playing a highly warped deck like this one. Like, we play a Vexing Bauble, and then we resolve an oppressive card, and we win. But just, like, ignore all this that is up here. That is the shreds of my Game 1 deck that I have thrown violently in the sideboard. Well, I mean, we've got a turn 1 Deafening Silence. I'm not mulliganing this one ever. It looks like our opponent is just passing the turn. I am fine just jamming. If the Deafening Silence gets countered, I maybe just end up resolving a Narset a little bit later, so I don't actually think it is the end of the world to just jam. If I trade with a Force of Will, I trade with a Force of Will. Ooh, we are getting action here. Resolve, baby! Force of Negation. Pitching Consigned to Memory. This card is everywhere. Second basic. Making that land drop prior to casting the Ponder is weird when I led on basic planes specifically. Not like they were playing around a daze there or anything. So let's go. Yeah. Love to find another Deafening Silence. Not interested in any of those cards. A Consigned to Memory. Not ideal. Like, that's not available to me in this next turn cycle. Opponent's doing some cycling. And it seems like I get to attempt to jam Narset now, which is cool. 18. Tundra's fine. I'm not going to cast Back to Basics. Yeah, Tundra's fine. Attempt the annoying Narset. And this is something that might dodge Flusterstorm, which is a card that my opponent is somewhat likely to be playing. Ooh, I'll take a Force of Negation, please. Nice. That was pretty ideal. Huh. Sure. Oh, is that a bluff? Oh, that feels bad. Bluff called. Let's Narset minus again, and then I'll plan out my turn. Fuck yeah. That's really good. I'll pick up a Deafening Silence. I'll play a Deafening Silence. Yes. Okay. Should we, on paper, win this matchup? No, absolutely not. Did 2 copies of a sideboard card carry the fuck out of this match? Yes, they did. GG, buddy. GG. Okay, no lands here. Easy mulligan. This one we keep. I'll put back the energy field, assuming that that's not something I want for the short term. My opponent often plays slow Grixis control sorts of deck lists, so that is what I am expecting to be squaring up against here. I think I am interested in just pondering on this first turn, or maybe brainstorming and just getting a cantrip in under an Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, let's island pass and then maybe upkeep brainstorm on my opponent's turn. Yeah. Cool. I am like A-okay with additional lands here. Let's bury an island and then hide like Vexing Bauble. Sure. It is a brainstorm of my opponent's own. They get to do the whole cute brainstorm fetch thing, but that doesn't matter if your cards are just perfect and you never need to fetch. I think I'm good with some more land as well. So let's go Yaw. The Yaw. It's in play. I am going to just kind of inefficiently brainstorm here. Again, playing around Bowmasters since I am already like heavily suspecting a Bowmasters matchup. So we will go 1 and then hide maybe Teferi on top. Call it a turn. And there's this whole like Bowmasters subgame going on right now. I now have plenty of mana. I am looking for business. I am looking for things to do with my mana. I would love my opponent to put a creature in play, and then I just like bounce that out of play with Teferi, and then have like a sword set up from there. Got a fetch land in Grixis colors. Grixis confirmed. Oh, it's just more cantrips. There still could be like a 1-mana threat this turn, like another Goyf or something like that. Not this time, though. Let's pick up another blue mana here. And honestly, I think I'm just into jamming this. Like, we know that Daze and Force of Will are covered right now. And if I set this to higher loyalty, it becomes more of a pain in the butt to answer. Brainstorm is fine. This is not my opponent digging for an answer to Teferi. This is them just using their mana while they can still play things at instant speed. Yep. And we will just plus our Teferi. It's a little bit safer against Bowmasters and friends. And now we have something sitting in play. What is that? Waterlogged Teachings. Glow Dirtily Grixis confirmed. I am okay casting Ponders and stuff here. I'm going to assume that Rest in Peace is quite good. I'm going to pick that card up. No shuffle. Fetch. Basic Plains. Cast Rest in Peace. Graveyards are off. And then just Teferi Plus. Have that loyalty chilling in play. I can Swords to Plowshares at my convenience if my opponent plays something out, although honestly I would probably just Teferi it out of play. Cameo's fine. Now this time around we have Teferi in play, so my opponent could not just brainstorm to flip that immediately. I think I'm just going to Teferi this out of play. Just take my value and tempo that way. Yeah. We'll ponder. Another ponder is okay. No shuffle. I want to ponder again right now. Sometimes. Let's just look at a couple of cards. Nah. Shuffle that. Another rip is not what I am looking for. So I'll pass the turn here. It's slightly annoying if Teferi just eats a lightning bolt and dies. I don't think I am overly concerned about that, though. I am okay just removing this creature as of right now. And if memory serves, my top card is currently random. Eh. I'm okay making basic land drops, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Pass turn. Some number of the things that I have done here have really wiped out my opponent's ability to play Magic, and without seeing their hand, I can't tell exactly. Like, I don't know if it's counterspells, I don't know if they are sitting on Fatal Push type cards that are just not usable. I don't have the read on that. I know that I'm not cycling this Vexing Bobble right now, though. That one, though. That one we can cycle. That's fine. Cycle that immediately. Eh. Yeah. Yeah. Now, at some point, Vexing Bobble stops being protection. My Teferi is still blocking counterspells, though, so. Bowmaster's resolves. You may ping Teferi's loyalty. I don't think I am interested in poking this guy immediately. I might do it on my own turn if I miss on a draw. So I can path a Bowmaster out of the way. Bounce a token out of the way. Just get deeper into my deck. These Vexing Bobbles. Not perfect. Cycle through them. Yeah. Seems fine. Alright, it is in play. Now, another Bowmaster could ping and kill my Teferi. Which is fine. I think I am good with that. Vexing Bobble is still some degree of disruption. I don't care about the Bowmasters all that much right now. With Rip and Energy Field, I will reveal Entreat the Angels. Fetching time. I will get an island. I will get a plains. I will cast and Entreat the Angels. Nimble Obstructionist. Sure. So my opponent cycles that to counter my triggered ability. Honestly, not that big of a deal. Like, I just cast this. Or X is too. Like, that is still just a perfectly reasonable thing for me to do. It still 2-turn clocks my opponent. Yes. Sure. That slows down my clock a lot. Sure. Now I would love to find the back to basics style cards that just tap all this stuff down. Sure. Path is fine. I'll just pass the turn here. Path probably ends up removing Bowmasters. Sure. I could trade with a Force of Will here. My opponent could hardcast one. Then Thoughtseize doesn't accomplish anything. Narset's annoying. I might crack this in response. Yeah, I'm going to crack this in response and make a plan. And now my opponent gets to dig for answers to my nonsense. They found a Force of Will. That's fine. My opponent is playing Thoughtseizes, so it may behoove me to just cast this Vexing Bauble right now. Alright, it just resolves. I'll pass turn here. This is maybe not going to be the most interesting game of Magic. One of us might time out this whole match. Like, I know I am saying that at the 18-minute mark, but neither one of our decks has a focus on winning the game. Mulligan's Command can mess with my Vexing Bauble. That's a good draw. So I know that my opponent has a Force of Will, so my Vexing Bauble still has text. I'll probably leave that in play, despite the fact that I could cycle it for a card here. Alright, opponent is discarding. Junking a Force of Will. Sure. I mean, cast. Pseudo uncounterable. Opponent has 3 basics in play, so they will play functional magic. It just makes it harder to do some things. Sure. So on my turn, this is not actually going to draw me a card if I crack it due to Narset. I'll discard Scalding Tarn. This could be Force of Willed now. My opponent just tapped a bunch of mana, so I assume that's their plan. Pitching another Force of Will. So we've seen 3 of the 4 Force of Wills go. We're chilling. With 3 of the 4 Force of Wills gone, whenever I do end up finding a Helm, my opponent will die to it. There's only 28 cards in my deck. I am very likely to find one in the not too distant future, especially if I can find a way to take Narset off the board. I kind of assume that my opponent has some removal in hand and they are just choosing not to use it because my Angel tokens don't really matter right now. The situation is that they don't matter until they are winning me the game pretty much immediately. Alright. They keep a card, but they're passing the turn. Path is a card. I think I'm just going to hold that. Like, it's not like removing the Narset this turn actually gets me anywhere immediately. Yes. Whereas something like this, I am more concerned with removing. Sure. So then my opponent is going to, like, Lightning Bolt. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yep. Land drop. I don't think I'm pathing immediately. I think I am kind of waiting, because sometimes I draw something like a Supreme Verdict that's relevant. I'll just hold that. Alright. I could cast the second Rest in Peace to make it harder for Energy Field to disappear, I suppose. Sure. I should maybe do that. So, yeah and yeah. Graveyard's bonus gone. And I'll just pass here. Sacrifice a creature token. Yeah, you got it. Again, these are not doing damage as long as I control this energy field, so we're good for a while. And my opponent decks before I deck. Heyo. This the time to use this? This seems fine. Let's just use this. It clears the Bowmasters and makes it so that I am less likely to die immediately if energy field is gone. Yeah, we might just have an actual factual mill my opponent out situation. There's probably going to be some annoying Jace the Mind Sculptor style card that I do have to end up respecting as an alternative win condition. Brainstorm's not the best right now. Nor will it really get better. Currently draw one card, put 2 cards back. I don't think I need to cast that. Yeah. There's a Moat. The Psychic Frogs, which cannot currently fly, are not viable anymore. And I think at this point, like, I either die to a Planeswalker Ultimate or I just kind of naturally win this game. We are fine putting up additional layers of protection. I guess I could probably play out Tundra at this point. It's not like I am likely to shuffle cards away with Brainstorm now. I don't know. At some point I need to do like a Jace the Mind Sculptor Ultimate count. Maybe I should not be playing lands in case that happens. Yeah, let's not play lands in case that happens. Alright, do you still have lands? Yes. 5 basics. Back to basics is going to be in a very interesting position where it is a card that is incredible against a portion of my deck and dead against another portion. Yep, no, we're just playing good honest Drago. That's a win condition. My opponent has 1 Force of Will remaining. Okay. Yeah. There might also be Force of Negation reasonably. Okay, no, we just win. Ye Old Grixis deck, historically not great at answering enchantments. And my opponent is relatively win condition light. Like, there's probably 4 Frogs, 4 Strix, some number of Tamios, some number of Bowmasters. Presumably there is some card that my opponent was playing towards that got them out of that situation, like some sort of Brazen Borrower type thing. Okay, so what do? If I can get myself to the same situation that I was in last time, like, my deck does perfectly fine. These are not the best versus Strix. This is good versus Strix. I like Prismatic Ending, I think. Bowmaster and Frog. I can't use it to get rid of some of the bigger stuff like Narset. I just have 2 colors. This is fine. This is interesting. I don't think I want counterspells. So I can think about this stuff. Moat's not great. It technically has text and does some stuff. Back to Basics, not great. It technically does some stuff. I think I'm going to get rid of Back to Basics. I think that's my first cut. I think that helps me wiggle for position. I think this helps with Psychic Frog. I think this helps with Psychic Frog. And then I decide if I want this stuff over something else that's already in the deck. I have a bit too much spot removal, but I can literally run my opponent out of threats and just mill them out. Like, no joke, that is a very reasonable thing for me to do. I think I'm just going to whack the submit button like this. Time is literally on my side. I think I'm just going to keep this. It's a little awkward. It's not how I want my hands to look. I think it's fine. Yeah. So I have basic plane and basic island covered already. Actually, I want to not expose this to Thoughtseize. Yeah. I'm just going to pass the turn. Yeah, I don't want to lose this to Thoughtseize. Like, my opponent probably already would have Thoughtseized. I guess I should do this in their upkeep before they have additional mana. I don't remember how much cycle the Birdman is. I think it's 3. I don't think that was actually a concern. Alright. So, Yaw. Pass turn, brainstorm at the first opportunity I have where I brainstorm around a Bowmaster. Lightning Bolt my face, sure. I will just brainstorm here for the sake of using my mana. Whoo, buddy. Again, so my next land drop is not Thoughtseized. I'm just going to hide my next land drop on top of my library and be okay with drawing that for turn. Sure. I will go ahead and island cycle immediately. Pick up an island. Do this. Just pass turn with the intention of brainstorming when Bowmaster shields are down. Discard a card, 2 damage to any target. Sure. Bowmaster shields are down, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I'm going to put valuable stuff on top of my deck here. I might end up fetching. I think I'm going to do this, and I'll discard a Path to Exile. Now that is 5 damage directly to my face. That speeds up the clock a lot. Sure, that's fine. I've lost an energy field. So, we're going to go ahead and start out with a Rest in Peace here. For the sake of being mana efficient, I think I'm going to go ahead and just deploy energy field immediately. Like, we have this backing it up, and Grixis has trouble with enchantments. This does shuffle away my Moat, but I think I'm good with that. Petty Theft, yep. So now my opponent can engineer some situation where they get rid of one of my permanents to answer my energy field, but hopefully in doing so they don't actually answer my Rest in Peace. And I will have one more energy field in my deck somewhere that I can find to get that hard lock on the game again. It is a Culligan's command. Sure. I will discard a Swords to Plowshares, I guess. So I lose energy field. My opponent gets very good Culligan's command value. But then I hopefully just redrop Rest in Peace. So, Yaw, Junk the graveyards. And now I am threatening a Helm kill at any moment. I'll end up taking probably 3 from a Brazen Borrower before I Supreme Verdict that away. Kind of keeps my opponent from playing out other creatures as well. Trigger. Fetch. Plains. We're going to go ahead and go all out here. Go for the 3. Last turn, we got Brazen Borrower covered via blockage. I have a relatively swift clock. My opponent might have a pile of removal that answers these angel tokens, or they might not. The Baleful Strix value type cards are pretty good right now. I am fine sending these in. And I will probably just Path to Exile Brazen. Oh, no. Sure. My opponent got rid of a Bowmaster. Rest in Peace is not super exciting right now, but the combat step is. There is a Brazen Borrower. I am just going to get that out of the way. I am trying to end this game right now. Not literally this turn, but over the next 2 turns. I don't want, like, Brazen Borrower plus Lightning Bolt to stop these creatures. I want my opponent to have to use 2 cards finishing these off. We have gotten the GGs here. So our pre-sideboarded, heavily warped, unhealthy deck does go positive in the league. So this was a fun thought experiment. Let's evaluate the final deck list here. This is a deck that has some problems. Like, it is a clunker. It is built to be a clunker. It is built to throw a whole bunch of right hooks and hope that one of them works. And the downside of that is that you are going to have a lot of situations where you open up, your opening hands and you have kind of too many of these cards in weird combinations that don't quite work together or are a little slow to get off the ground. However, the upside of this deck is incredibly high. Sometimes you are going to steal game 1s that you don't deserve because you play a very powerful, very narrow, hard to answer card or something that, kind of has no business being in the metagame that just hits like a truck. Now, that said, even though we built this highly warped deck list, It's not like my matches were a cakewalk when I did queue into the Psychic Frog and Eldrazi decks, right? Like, yes, I have 8 1-mana removal spells. Sometimes I don't draw them. Sometimes I will just get outclocked by what those decks are capable of doing. But I would say, generally speaking, the idea of trying to play this, like, pre-sideboarded control deck list with a whole bunch of narrow things is good, or was a success. Maybe not was good. It was good enough. It did feel good to just be, like, pre-sideboarded in that I was playing the 8 1-mana removal spells. That was probably the best thing of the entire league, was just, like, not having Force of Wills and then just instead having this giant pile of removals so that I was not just going to immediately die to the first Eldrazi, the Psychic Frog, whatever. If I was going to play another league with this, what would I change? I think I liked Vexing Bauble better in theory than in practice. It might be necessary to have some ability to protect my haymakers. Like, it gives you a much better, like, 1, 2, 3 curve by having the Vexing Baubles. But if I'm doing this, I am pretty darn soft to Chalice of the Void. My win conditions aren't stopped by it, and some of my prison pieces aren't stopped by it, but the machine definitely grinds to a halt if Chalice of the Void gets involved. Maybe you could get a touch more interactive and drop something like the Moats. Moat plus Rest in Peace is real good at stopping Frog, though, so, like, there is that. You could maybe tweak the in-out numbers a little bit, try to squeeze in another card or two for combo. I think that would be reasonable. But I'm going to say that this was a fun thought experiment, and I hope you enjoyed. Did you need any of the cards for it, like your Stone Coil Serpent to wall the frogs? Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order at TOA. And folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya! It's very cute, Boba Tea.